Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Definitely.
All right, so this time we're tackling Marcus Aurelius.
Ah, yes. The philosopher king.
Right, philosopher king, Roman emperor,
And a Stoic, of course.
and a Stoic. It's funny, we were just talking about this beforehand, but it's so interesting to think about, right? This guy, he's got the whole Roman Empire at his
All the
fingertips.
power, all the wealth.
Exactly. And yet he's writing in his journal about virtue and self-control and, like, living a simple life.
It's kind of a stark contrast to how many people live today, even those who are nowhere near as powerful.
Totally. So let's dive into this. What is it about this Stoicism thing?
Well, the core idea is to live in accordance with nature.
Okay, I've heard that before, but what does that actually mean, like in practical terms?
Well, imagine a tree, like a big oak tree.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
It grows tall and strong because it's fulfilling its nature, right? It's doing what it's meant to do.
I see.
Stoics believe humans should be doing the same, fulfilling our potential.
And what is our potential, according to the Stoics? Like, what are we supposed to be doing?
Being kind, rational, and virtuous.
Okay, so like being the best version of ourselves.
Exactly. Striving for excellence in all areas of life.
That's pretty good. But let's get real for a second. What about all the crap that life throws at us?
Well, Aurelius definitely didn't shy away from that.
He didn't?
Nope. He knew life was full of challenges. Difficult people, obstacles, you name it.
So, like, what did he say about dealing with difficult people? Because that's something I think we all struggle with.
Oh yeah, he had some thoughts on that for sure. He basically said it's like thorns on a vine.
Thorns on a vine.
Yeah, they're just part of it, right. You can't have a vine without some thorns.
Okay, I guess that's true. But how are we supposed to deal with those thorns, those people who just rub us the wrong way?
Aurelius believed we need to look inward.
Instead of getting mad at them.
Right. He said we all have our own faults, and we often don't really understand where other people are coming from.
So trying to have some empathy.
Exactly.
That's tough to do sometimes, though, especially when someone's being truly difficult.
It is. But Aurelius would remind us that maybe that difficult person is acting out of their own pain or fear or even some misguided sense of love.
I've never thought about it that way.
Think about like a parent stealing food to feed their kid. Their actions might be wrong, but the motivation is coming from a place of love and desperation.
Wow, that puts things in a different light.
It does, doesn't it?
Okay, so Aurelius was all about accepting the tough stuff, huh?
He was. He said adversity is just part of life.
So don't try to avoid it.
Right. He actually believed we should prepare ourselves to meet challenges head on.
Mentally prepare.
Yeah. He even had this great quote. I think it goes like, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way."
Whoa, that's deep. So he's saying that the obstacles we face can actually help us grow.
Exactly.
I love that. Makes you want to, like, go out and find some obstacles to overcome.
Huh. Well, maybe not intentionally, but it does give you a new way to look at challenges.
Definitely. Okay, so Aurelius is an emperor, right? Which means...
He's got all the riches you can imagine.
Right. Palaces, fancy clothes, tons of food. Did he think all that stuff was the key to happiness?
Well, he didn't exactly reject material possessions, but he had a really interesting perspective on them.
Oh. Like what?
He said, it's fine to appreciate what you have, but don't let it define you.
So don't be attached to your stuff.
Exactly. He believed true fulfillment comes from inner growth, not from accumulating things.
Because material things are fleeting, right?
Yeah.
They can be lost or taken away.
Right, but your character, your virtue, those things stay with you.
That's powerful stuff.
It is. And I think that's one of the reasons people are still turning to Aurelius's writings today. His insights about wealth, happiness, and virtue are really timeless. I mean, think about it. How many people do you know who have all the money and stuff they could ever want?
But they're still miserable.
Exactly. Aurelius was onto something when he said, true happiness comes from inner growth, not from all that external stuff.
Okay, I get that. But what does inner growth actually look like? Like, how do we achieve it?
That's where those virtues come in. Remember, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance.
Right. The 4 Stoic virtues. It's easy to talk about them in the abstract, but...
But what do they actually mean in practice?
Exactly.
Well, let's start with wisdom.
Okay.
For Aurelius, wisdom meant using reason and logic to guide your actions, instead of letting emotions run wild.
So thinking before you act.
Basically, it's about being deliberate and thoughtful in your approach to life.
Makes sense. What about justice? What does that mean to Aurelius?
For him, justice was all about treating everyone fairly and with respect, recognizing that every human being has inherent worth and dignity.
That's powerful, especially coming from an emperor, someone with so much power over others.
Exactly. And it wasn't just some theoretical idea for him either. He actually tried to live it out in his own life, both as a philosopher and as an emperor.
So he wasn't just talking the talk, he was walking the walk.
Absolutely. There are tons of stories about him applying these principles to his leadership,
Okay.
like during the Antonine Plague.
Oh, yeah, that was devastating. Wiped out a huge chunk of the Roman population.
It did. But even in the face of this horrible crisis, Aurelius didn't lose his head. He didn't give in to despair or panic. Instead, he saw it as an opportunity to practice virtue, to lead with strength and compassion.
To help his people through a really tough time.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got wisdom and justice. What about courage? What did that look like for Aurelius?
Well, for him, courage wasn't just about physical bravery on the battlefield. It was about having the inner strength to face any challenge.
So like fear, pain, loss, disappointment.
All of that, and facing it with strength and resilience. It was about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard or unpopular.
So it's about that mental and emotional toughness we talked about before.
Exactly, that ability to keep going even when things get rough.
Okay, and then there's temperance, right?
The often forgotten virtue.
The what?
Temperance. It's often forgotten.
Oh, right, temperance. But what is it actually?
It's all about moderation and self-control. Finding a balance in all things, avoiding excess, and living a life of simplicity and purpose.
It's like the glue that holds all the other virtues together, right?
You got it, because without temperance, wisdom could become arrogance, justice could become self-righteousness, and courage could become recklessness.
Whoa, yeah, that makes total sense. So temperance keeps us grounded.
Exactly. It's about making conscious choices, aligning your actions with your values and goals, living intentionally.
I'm really starting to see how these virtues work together. They create a framework for a good life, a virtuous life.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
I know you're thinking, how do we actually cultivate these virtues?
Oh, yeah, it all sounds great, but how do we put it into practice?
That's where the real work begins. And Aurelius had some very specific advice for how to do that. One key practice he emphasized was mindfulness.
Wait, mindfulness, isn't that a new agey thing?
You might be surprised to hear that Aurelius was talking about mindfulness centuries ago. He understood that our minds are constantly racing,
Oh, tell me about it.
full of worries, anxieties, distractions. He believed that by paying attention to the present moment without judgment, we can cultivate inner peace and clarity.
So it's about quieting all that mental noise and just being here now.
Exactly.
I can see how that would be helpful for making better decisions.
Yeah.
For being more present in our interactions. For handling challenges with more grace.
Exactly. And Aurelius believed mindfulness is the key to cultivating all the other virtues. How can you be wise if your mind is cluttered with worries? How can you be just if you're not fully present to the needs of others?
Right, right.
How can you be courageous if you're dwelling on past failures or future anxieties?
Wow, he really connected all the dots.
He did. And he believed that mindfulness is available to everyone. It's not some special skill. It's a human capacity we can all develop with practice and intention.
That's encouraging. It makes Stoicism seem much more attainable, like something we can all benefit from.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's having such a resurgence today. In a world that feels increasingly chaotic, unpredictable, people are looking for ways to find inner peace and stability.
Makes sense. It's like Stoicism is offering a path to that.
It is. It's about learning to navigate the ups and downs of life with more wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance.
Okay, but I still have one question. Aurelius talks a lot about accepting what you can't control.
Right.
But isn't that a bit passive? Doesn't that contradict the idea of striving for excellence and living a virtuous life?
That's a great question. It gets to the heart of one of the most commonly misunderstood aspects of Stoicism. It's not about being passive at all. It's more about recognizing where your control actually lies and where it doesn't.
Okay, but how do we figure that out? Like, what do we have control over and what don't we?
Well, you can control your effort, your attitude, your actions.
But you can't control other people.
Right. You can't control the weather or the economy or, frankly, a lot of things that happen in life.
So how does accepting that help?
Because it allows you to focus your energy on the things you can actually change instead of wasting it on things you can't.
This is about being effective.
Exactly.
Okay.
And less stress, too, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Less frustration, less anxiety. Because you're not trying to fight a losing battle.
Right. So imagine, like, You're facing a tough situation at work. Maybe there's a big project that's stressing you out.
Oh, yeah, I can relate to that.
Instead of freaking out about everything that could go wrong, the Stoic approach is to identify what you can actually control. Your effort, your communication, your problem-solving skills.
And then focus on doing those things to the best of your ability.
Exactly. You're still striving for excellence, you're still putting in the work, but you're also accepting that there are some things that are just out of your hands.
Like if your coworker drops the ball or the client changes their mind at the last minute.
Exactly. You can't control that stuff, but you can control how you react to it.
So it's about having a plan, but also being flexible and adaptable.
You got it. That's the Stoic mindset in a nutshell. It's about being proactive, but also accepting the things you can't change.
This is all starting to make so much sense to me. It's like Aurelius is saying, hey, life is going to be tough sometimes. You can't control everything that happens, but you can control how you respond.
Exactly. And by choosing to respond with courage, resilience, and a commitment to virtue, you actually empower yourself to live a more fulfilling life.
So we've talked about Stoicism as a philosophy for dealing with tough times. But is it also a path to happiness? Did Aurelius believe that living virtuously makes you a happier person?
He absolutely did. For him, true happiness wasn't about chasing pleasure or collecting things. It was about living in accordance with your nature, fulfilling your potential as a human being.
And he believed that was the key to lasting contentment.
He did. It's about aligning your actions with your values and living a life of purpose and meaning.
I love that idea. It's not about seeking happiness out there in the world. It's about cultivating it from within.
Exactly. It's about focusing on what you can control. Your character, your actions, your response to the world around you.
It's a powerful message, and one that seems more relevant now than ever.
I agree. In a world that's constantly telling us we need more to be happy, Aurelius is reminding us that true fulfillment comes from something much deeper.
Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who found his kingdom within. Pretty inspiring stuff, right?
It really is. And it leaves us with this question. How can you apply these principles to your own life? What steps can you take today to start living a life that is more aligned with your values and your potential?
That's something for all of us to think about. If you're interested in learning more about Stoicism and the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, there are tons of resources out there, books, articles, podcasts, you name it.
It's a philosophy that's stood the test of time, and for good reason.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Marcus Aurelius. We'll see you next time.